There was a piper once, making his way by the hills and the high roads. It was a Scottish winter, and cold enough, you may be sure. He had been to a certain farm, seeking a night's lodgings, but they would have none of him, and turned him away again to find what shelter he could out by. It would be a day or so later, as I heard it, he was passing near that farm again when he met with Three Spalpeens. Now these Spalpeens were the class of Irish farm worker that at one time were travelling farm to farm with their spades over their shoulders, and they'd come over to Scotland to lift potatoes and turnips and such. Well, the piper and the Three Spalpeens trudged on along the road together. It was a bitter cold day, you know. Snow blown in drifts. And they passed by the roadside the corpse of a man that had keeled over and died from the cold. That's the truth. He was frozen solid. The piper, poor soul, was lacking any scrap of shoes to guard his feet, and he tried to get the dead man's shoes off to wear himself. But the shoes were frozen solid on the dead man's feet. So he said to one of the Spalpeens, "Get the one of your spade, son." And he cut the dead man's feet off with the spade. And he put the feet, shoes and all, into his pocket. Frozen solid. The piper and the Spalpeens went on, till they came to the farmhouse where the piper had been turned away just a wee while before. And the piper said to the Spalpeens, "Well, away into yon house and seek lodgings, and any money you make while you're there, you'll share it with me, for I've a bit plan that'll make you money if you'll agree to it." "Oh, I'll agree," said the first Spalpeen. "I will agree," said the second. "I'll agree to that plan," said the third. And the piper told them his plan, and waited behind a bush out of sight while the Three Spalpeens went up to the door. When the farmer opened the door and saw these three hulking lads with the spades, he didn't like to refuse them commons and lodging. Oh, he was a stick of a man, and as mean as a rusty nail, but there was 3 to 1, you see. Soon enough, they were sitting beside the fire. Well, at that time, it was the custom to keep the cows in one side of the house while dwelling in the other. It helped to keep the house warm, the fire at the one end and the cows at the other. In came the farmer's daughter with a bucket of snow to melt for tea, and she warned them where they were settled. "Don't sleep near that grey cow at the end. She's terribly snappy. She might bite your jackets." In a wee while, the piper knocked at the door, and the farmer, seeing the old ragged ruffian he'd turned away before, didn't want to let him in this time either. But the Spalpeens said, "Gee, just let the poor feller in out the cold, will yez?" So in shuffled the piper, and the farmer's daughter warned him, "Don't settle to sleep near the grey cow. She might nibble at your bagpipes." Well, when they'd had their bite of supper, they settled down for the night, and in the middle of the night, the piper got the dead man's shoes and feet out of his jacket pocket and thawed them out beside the fire. And long before the dawn of day, he put the dead man's shoes on his own bare feet, slipped quietly out the door and off down the road. He left the dead man's feet where he'd been sleeping, near the grey cow. In the morning, the farmer's daughter came in with a bucket of snow to melt for the porridge, and she said, "Where's the piper?" "Jesus, I don't know where he's gone." "How would I know where he is? I'm only those moment awake myself," said the Spalpeens. The farmer's daughter looked around, and she saw the feet lying near the grey cow. "Oh, goodness gracious, what next?" she exclaimed. "The cow's eaten the piper." When the farmer knew of it, he said to the Spalpeens, "Here, lads, I'll tell you what I'll do. Here's a £5 note. Just never say any more about it, eh? Oh, better make it 10, eh? Just hold your wheesht and bite your teeth, eh?" So the Spalpeens went off down the road till they met the piper, and they shared the money.